Welcome to my channel, comrades. Today I want to talk about how it seems like all of us leftist commies seem to know what's going to happen. It's not because we can see the future, it's because we remember the past. Now, I am a biologist and a former science teacher, so it makes sense that science is going to mean a lot to me personally. But there's a reason, beyond my personal love for science, for me to be upset about what's going on in the world today. To help you understand my reasoning, we're going to need to look way back to the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in the mid-19th century. And we're going to need to talk about a man called Lysenko and another man called Stalin. Trofim Lysenko was a biologist like me. But unlike me, he decided his political ideology should determine which ideas from science he should accept or reject, and which concepts in biology ought to be allowed to be taught in schools. The big thinkers in the Soviet Union had a fundamental distrust of the theory of evolution because they felt that it was too ideologically liberal. Evolution was about individual survival, and they preferred to think in terms of collective survival and the individual striving for the good of the collective. Evolution was just too individualist and capitalist to be acceptable for the society that they wanted to build. So instead they favored an interpretation of Lamarckism that they felt was more congruent with Soviet ideals. In Lamarckism, as they framed it, the individual strived for the success of the collective. Good stuff from the perspective of Soviet ideologues, not so great in terms of actual factual support. But if you want to build a great nation, you can't let facts get in the way. So thousands of liberal scientists were rounded up and imprisoned. Many of them died in prison. Some of them were killed outright. The Soviet Union dictated that evolution could not be taught in schools, and they outlawed any medical technology that was derived using the evil theory. The president of the Soviet Academic Advisory, formerly Lysenko's mentor, died in prison. Soviet agriculture was not allowed to use any technologies derived from Western biology or its perniciously capitalist evolutionary theory. Lysenko felt that genes were a bourgeois invention and distrusted genetics due to its ties to the theory of evolution. During his career, he came up with a number of theories of his own, mostly pertaining to agriculture, that he felt were more in line with Soviet ideals and Lamarckism. Lysenko rose to political prominence because the Soviet Union was facing severe famine, mostly due to the reapportion of traditional farmlands from the hands of nobles to the proletariat in the rise of communism. His pet theories offered an ideologically pure solution to the problems faced by the Soviet Union. He became a darling of the Russian propaganda machine. Every success was attributed to Lysenko and his Lamarckist ideas, and every failure was blamed on closet capitalists and their ties to Western ideology. Lysenko's attacks on the theory of evolution and genetics, considered bourgeois inventions, served to make him more palatable to the powerful within the Soviet Union, who were working to distance themselves from Western ideas like capitalism and individualism, and of course to consolidate their power over their people. In 1948, with Stalin's backing, Lysenkoism was declared the only correct theory. Many scientists who had been advocating for genetics immediately repented, possibly on fear of death. The impact of Lysenkoism was a wholesale rejection of valuable technologies developed in the West using evolution and genetics to the detriment of Soviet agriculture and medicine. Hybridization was disallowed, and some of Lysenko's theories about crop rotation were so damaging to the soil that otherwise arable land was rendered unusable for decades without the use of mineral fertilizers. Famine was a common problem in the Soviet Union, and it seems fair to say that Lysenkoism just resulted in more of it. What few people know is that Lysenkoism is trying to have a comeback. Today, in the 21st century, in Russia, as Putin pursues his dreams of a prosperous empire that never existed. It appears those ideologues just love them some science denial. But we don't have that problem here, right? Right? We're not shutting down institutes that are focused on scientific progress or health, right? There aren't any plans to exclude teaching established biological science in our schools, right? How could things possibly go wrong if only we had a historical analog that we could look to for an example? The USSR used to be the second most powerful nation on Earth after the US. The big U's, kind of a W for win. This was during my lifetime. I have memories that formed when the USSR was powerful to a point that we were concerned that they might successfully invade the United States. Now the USSR has fallen. The carcass has been picked clean by formerly Soviet oligarchs with no regard for the well-being of their countrymen. One of those oligarchs, those hungry vultures that picked apart the country they claimed to love, is now president of Russia for life. He also just happens to be besties with Trump. I'm just so happy, so very, very happy that here in the United States, we don't need to worry about oligarchs gutting our nation for personal enrichment while insisting on their personal ideologies to the detriment of science and technology. Because if that unlikely scenario were true, history shows us exactly where that path leads to. It looks like political prisoners. It looks like rampant censorship of science. It looks like sliding from cultural, political, and economic prominence to virtually third world status. A pariah state that is so unimportant to other first world nations that it can be virtually cut off from trade. Now you know what I see as the NIH and CDC are virtually shut down, despite the fact that our agricultural system is in the middle of a potentially crippling disease outbreak, and why I'm so troubled by wholesale cuts to science funding and the proposed dissolution of the Department of Education. We are already holding on to our economic primacy by a thread. China has more brains than we do. Not metaphorical brains, I mean literal human brains. Their population is more than 5 times our population. China currently has the same number of scientists as the United States, but they have doubled their number of scientists between 2012 and 2022, which means that their overall production of scientists and now science is ramping up faster than ours. Our current actions are reducing the number of working scientists in the United States. Yes, we're still in the lead, but we're only in the lead because we had a head start. Because when China turned to communism, they did a purge in their academic and research communities. And that purge set them back. Now it's looking like we may be gearing up to do a purge of our own. The outcome should be clear and chilling to anyone who's paying attention, especially given the exponential nature of scientific advancement. If we allow our national ideologies to subvert our technological supremacy, we may never get it back again. You may tell yourself, it's not important to be number one. And I agree, there are a lot of perfectly good countries out there that don't enjoy number one technological status. But there are so many luxuries that we enjoy because of our special status. Luxuries that seem to us to be necessities. I don't think we're actually going to be okay seeing those luxuries disappear. That won't be a problem for Elon Musk or Donald Trump. They're rich enough that they can enjoy a fantastic quality of life regardless of the technological or economic status of our nation. In fact, while the rest of us stand in line for Christian nationalist-approved loaves at the dispensaries, that will only make them feel that much richer by comparison. Our nation is dying, and the corpse is cheering for the vultures. If you liked what I have to say, make sure you like and subscribe. If you disliked what I have to say or disagree with anything, put that down in the comments. This is a shitty time to start a atheist YouTube channel. But here we go. We need more voices. Put yours out there too. And don't forget that your physical presence in the real world is the real power. This on YouTube, it's nothing. But I hope it gets you out there. I'll see you again later. I enjoy arguing with strangers on the internet, and you are welcome to respond to this video in a video of your own. Please either email me or leave me a comment indicating that you have responded to my video. Include a link to your response video. By responding to this or any other video, you grant me permission to respond to your response video. Here are a couple of other videos I've made. Click on one to continue wasting time on YouTube, but don't forget to like this video first.